Okay, so we should be live. What's up, internet users? I'm here with my cousin Josh. We're just going to talk about the SSPX in the wake of the consecrations, because I double dipped this morning. I juggled two chicks. Okay, I went to the FSSP and then I went to the SSPX, and I didn't receive sacraments at the SSPX. Okay, because I was trying to be cautious. I went to the FSSP for purposes, whatever, and then I went to the SSPX for like educational and just to see what's the his up, on the inside. But anyway, I'm joined by my cousin Josh, which is cool, so I don't have to talk to myself. But Josh, so you went to an FSSP this morning, right?
They did not actually. I went to a Novus Ordo in Killer.
Are you serious?
I did actually.
That's funny.
I just want to get the really early mass. But the rest of my family went to the FSSP. And I usually go to the FSSP. I like going there sometimes, though, just because I can get there like 7 a.m. Just over pretty quick.
Yeah, because I went to the 7 a.m. at Mater Dei. I got Father McDonald. He was actually surprisingly positive on the SSPX. So he didn't actually talk about it that much. He just made a brief comment on it, and then he gave a regular homily. Today was like the feeding the 4,000 with loaves and fishes gospel. But he said, look, as far as the elephant in the room, we're just going to talk about the SSPX real quick. He said, I'm not a canon lawyer. I don't know if they're in schism or not, because whatever. But he said, basically, if they are in schism, I asked the question, what exactly are they in schism with? He said, like, if they're excommunicated, what are they excommunicated from? Are they excommunicated from the bishop of whatever inviting people to the mosque and celebrating the opening of the Muslims and this and that? And he started going off on stuff that I knew about, some stuff I didn't know about. And I was like, whoa, this dude just dropped the mic, because he's over here basically saying, like, what are they excommunicated from? Are they excommunicated from religious liberty and all that? But he didn't say that. He said careful terms. But other than that, he just went straight to his homily. So I was like, that's cool. He didn't condemn the SSPX. Surprising. Huh. Oh man, this means Hayden needs to hop on with us, because I know Hayden heard Father Harkin's homily.
Did you have a homily about the SSPX? Did Father Harkins have a homily about the SSPX?
I'm assuming he had words to say about it. It's kind of like the thing that all the priests want to talk to the parishioners about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I don't know. Sorry, my back hurts. Okay. Well, what did your priest talk about? Did your priest mention the SSPX at all?
He did not. Ours was typical Novus Ordo. It was basically just July 4th in America. Like, even though the news or whatever is going to try to make it look like a very secular country, is still like very faith-based as far as the founding fathers or whatever go. So I was like, whatever.
Okay.
And never mind much. But yeah, he didn't say anything about it. So
that's cool. Yeah, because I went to the SSPX, and it was packed like it normally is. It was like packed to the rafters, like sardines, man. Everybody was like happy. Like they weren't like, I don't know. I guess they were like normal. But they were just like happy, people were smiling and shaking hands and stuff. And I saw the normal people that I normally see there. And I think my priest's name is Father Palco. He's like actually a really good priest. He gave this homily, and he was basically just, loosely saying like about how the letter that Cardinal Fernandez wrote wasn't binding, excommunicatory for this and that reason, kind of like what I've already heard online. Like basically, they're technically not excommunicated under penal form or whatever they're saying now. I've heard it already. So I'm like, okay, I guess they believe that. But like, I don't know. I was just really surprised by how happy everyone was. When it was like some of like the ushers and the people that I knew had been there for a while, they had this kind of like natural happiness about them, as if to say like, it's going to be all right. Like, it's as though they were hungry, and it's like, we're going to be filled, we're going to be fed, don't worry. Everything's going to be okay now. Like they had this good assurance and this positivity, which is nice. I guess I was a little surprised just by how happy everyone. I expected everyone to be kind of like, talking about it, but nobody really mentioned it. It wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, like I said, Father mentioned it in the homily, but yeah, it was really refreshing. Like I said, I didn't receive communion. I kind of wish I did, but it's all right. Yeah, pretty much it. What are your actual personal thoughts on the SSPX?
Let's see. So I can't agree with their decision as far as to consecrate. Like I know they needed bishops pretty bad, but if the Pope is literally writing you a letter like begging you not to consecrate new bishops, like you can't do that, which is why they got excommunicated. But after they got, or who is it, Pope Benedict lifted their excommunication or whatever, I didn't really have a problem with them. Like, honestly, would have loved to go to an SSPX or SSPX mass before they got excommunicated, but I don't know. I didn't really have a problem with them. Like, my mom liked the SSPX and my dad kind of didn't.
Yeah,
but I was kind of taking some from both sides, just from what I heard and from you too. Like, they're not like some like disobedient, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're really
exactly
good,
what you mean.
faithful people.
Well,
So
that's what surprised me. Yeah, when I first started going to the SSPX, I started going to the SSPX before they were labeled. Now, before this whole event thing started happening, back when they were still greenlit by Pope Francis. But yeah, I was just really surprised by their just natural, jovial. Like, they weren't prideful, they weren't angry one way or another, they weren't disobedient. They were just kind of like normal people, like everybody else.
Because you'll like go on the news and stuff, and you'll see like, oh, some rebel group called Society of St. Pius X, but you go there in real life and it's like not that at all.
Yeah, not really. And the priests are really solid. The confessionals are really good. I mean, it's not like I heard a joke on Twitter where it's like you go to a confession to an SSPX priest and it's like they're giving you like this 5-hour conversation about the Holocaust or something. Like, that could not be further from the truth. But anyway, yeah. So it's kind of sad. I mean, the priest, he was basically saying, like, in his homily, he was relating the 4,000 people and in the gospel, you have 4,000 people being fed with loaves and fishes. Like, God has fed us through his apostles. I guess he didn't really explicitly say this, but I guess the SSPX sees it as, they are the 4,000 and Christ is feeding them now through the apostles, their new bishops, because the 4,000 followed him out into the desert, even though they didn't have any food. And they're like, how are we going to get home? We don't know or care. We're just going to follow Christ. And so if you notice, the 4,000 is actually different from the 5,000. There's a 5,000 people that got fed with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, right?
Right.
So now we progress, and now there's only 4,000 people. So 1,000 people left, right? So people are leaving. And these people are way out in the middle of the desert and they get fed. I guess the SSPX kind of see themselves as that. They see themselves as having adhered closely to Christ and having been fed by our Lord, I guess. I mean, they kind of see not Rome in the Catholic Church sense, but they kind of see like the Pope and the bishops, like they see them as, valid. They see the Pope as the Pope and whatnot, but they kind of also see them as like, the Sanhedrin, where it's like the shepherds that did not feed their flock. And they look to these new bishops to be fed, whereas there's almost no other bishops that they can hope to be fed from. I guess that's what they're seeing.
Right.
But anyway, I kind of, like I said, I do sympathize with the SSPX. I still haven't completely decided if I'm going to go to the SSPX. Like, if I'm still going to be like, okay, I'm officially SSPX now, or if I'm just going to go back to the FSSP. I haven't really decided. I would kind of like to be part of the SSPX, but again, it's more prudent just to wait anyway, just to wait and see. Because Pope Leo himself may actually come out and say something, and that may change things. So, because so far their stuff for what was it, the sacrament of penance and the sacrament of marriage was actually granted by Pope Francis. And they claim, the SSPX claims that it actually can't be taken away by Cardinal Fernandez. It has to be taken away by Pope Leo. Like by a papal decree, that jurisdiction for marriage and for penance can be taken away, but not from Cardinal Tuccio.
Was it not?
So
Was it the cardinal who said those because I know someone said those specific sacraments weren't valid anymore, but was it Cardinal Fernandez or who it is?
Well, yeah, I think so. I think Cardinal Fernandez was the one who said in that letter that their marriage and the sacrament of penance would be invalid if you received them from the SSPX.
So Pope Leo himself didn't mention anything about the sacraments?
No, not yet. I mean, Pope Leo's stamp or signature or whatever wasn't on the letter from Cardinal Fernandez. Pope Leo, I don't think, has actually officially said anything. The only thing he said was, ironically, like the day after, he came out and said that we should all have the freedom to do religious liberty and worship God in our own way or something about Independence Day and America's independence or something like that. But he hasn't said anything to the SSPX that I'm aware of. The SSPX has wrote him a letter, but he hasn't said anything right now. He's probably just thinking, honestly, he may just be hoping that the letter from Cardinal Fernandez is enough. Cardinal Fernandez wrote a letter that lacks penal form and it lacks a bunch of stuff that normally is required to declare someone to be excommunicated or schismatic. But I think he's okay. I think that may be by design. And I think maybe everyone in Rome is just going to kind of sit back and let it stew, let people in the media quote it, let it be shared on all over these platforms, and let everyone think erroneously that the SSPX is excommunicated and schismatic and that their sacraments are invalid, yada, yada. And then after a while, then he may come out and say something. I don't know. But like I said, I'm not completely ruling. I don't know. I would like to completely rule out. I would like to completely say that, yeah, for sure, they're not excommunicated. Yeah, for sure, they're not in schism. I guess I can't technically say that. Really, you can't really. I can't say that because I'm not a canon lawyer. I'm not smarter than Father McDonald, who himself, he says he can't say with 100% certainty, right? So we'll just wait and see what happens. But I'm a lot more hopeful about the SSPX now that I went to Mass there this morning than I was before. Because like before, I was feeling like all depressed, and even last night I could barely eat at the 4th of July because I was just like, my stomach was a nuts. But like after going to Mass this morning, I just felt like really like at peace. I was like, wow, these people are not freaking out. These people are just, they're not rebellious or anything, but they're just like happy, and it's kind of sad that it came to this. They're kind of like the FSSP. They're moms and dads with families who want to get their families to heaven, basically. Yeah. But yeah, well, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Not really. I think I mentioned this before we started the live stream. I was kind of surprised that a lot of the congregation hasn't been in the SSPX to the FSSP yet. Because I would have assumed that after being like excommunicated, they would have just gone straight to the FSSP, acknowledging the Pope and everyone as a valid authority. But I guess that hasn't happened. So,
I mean, it's still a little early, but man, you'd be surprised that these laity and the SSPX are so one-minded. They are so united. It's beautiful to see. I hope it's not erroneous. I'm not saying it's not erroneous, but I mean, it's in any case, it's beautiful to see, but they are really one-minded. There's no dissent, there's no discord, there's no faction in the SSPX that I'm aware of or that I've seen on my side. Basically everybody's attitude towards this was, it's about time, like what took us so long to make these 4 bishops, nobody, I mean, I know of one person, I don't want to say her name, but I do know this one person where she was going to the SSPX for quite a while, and she actually did not agree with the consecrations, but she's already jumped back to the FSSP. More power to her. That's great. She's, following her conscience, and she's doing what she feels. She's trying to submit to Rome. That's great. It's awesome. Good for her. Nothing against her. Other than her, though, like, I mean, everyone I know in the SSPX is like completely one-minded. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, like I said, it's also still a little early. Maybe time will go on. Maybe Pope Leo will make an official statement that is actually convincing. And some faithful in the SSPX may get nervous. As of right now, it seems that like the faithful in the SSPX are not convinced with Cardinal Fernandez's letter. His letter is like, it's kind of a loosely written letter that basically says that 600,000 people are excommunicated and schismatic, and nobody's quite taking that seriously. But we'll see what happens, I guess.
Did he say the congregation was excommunicated? Because I thought it was just the bishops and the priests.
I think the letter says for sure the 6 bishops, and then so it's actually,
I thought I read somewhere that the Laity congregation, like, they were warned, but like not excommunicated.
They're warned that if they adhere to the society, then they are excommunicated. Okay. Yeah, and schismatic. It's a double whammy, I guess. If they adhere to the society, I guess, to the ideals of the society, you know, if they, I don't know. He kind of didn't define it. I mean, you can't really do that. You know, if you're going to if you're going to excommunicate the laity, it has to be a case by case basis. You can't excommunicate potentially 500,000 people at once. Which is the estimated number of the SSPX laity. That's the estimated number of people that go to SSPX chapels. It's about 500,000. 600,000 if you count the drifters like me who kind of come in, but we're kind of not diehards yet, I guess. But it was a little vague and it was a little broad, and there was not a lot of concrete grounds for why exactly the priests and the religious of the society got excommunicated and schismatized. I'm going to make up this word schismatized. But there is probable cause for the 6 bishops, of course, because it's in canon law. If you consecrate bishops, the bishops and the bishop that did it are all excommunicated. Not actually, technically not schismatic, though. Schismatic is a new thing added. Like, it's implied because he made new bishops. And if you try to set up a new, like a parallel hierarchy, that is schismatic, or it's very likely that it can be. But strictly speaking, in canon law, it's like the only thing you could say for sure is that they're excommunicated. Of course, the SSPX claims that they did it under the case of necessity, under canons, this and that, and that they're not excommunicated after all, which they already claimed that beforehand anyway. Everybody knew that they would claim that. So technically, they can't be formally excommunicated until Rome opens like an appeal and has them come in and be like, okay, we need to have a sit down and we need to say all the evidence. And then after the whole appeal and everything is done, then Rome can come out and say, okay, so y'all are excommunicated after all formally. It's called de ferende. And so once they're excommunicated de ferende, then they're for sure excommunicated, no question. But because it's so sudden and because the church is actually accusing them of being excommunicated Laity sententiae, they could be, but they could not be. They haven't appealed it yet, and they haven't really, they haven't done their due process yet that they normally would do in this situation. So, but yeah, I guess that's about it, man. That's all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to share my little. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm a little disappointed. I wanted to know what Father Harkins had to say.
Oh, that would have been.
I wish you'd have been there.
I'll ask my parents, because they all went this morning.
I'll ask around. I'll figure it out later. Get Hayden. Yeah. Hayden's conveniently not answering his phone right now. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Were you trying to get a hold of me? I'm like, yeah. We'll get him. We'll get him. But no, yeah. I guess that's about it. That's all I wanted to talk about. So yeah, that's all I got to talk about. I guess I'll go ahead and end the stream, and that'll be that.